Joining me now is White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby. So, welcome. Thank you for being with us. I know you've got one more day in this critical job.
Yes.
Tell us, nothing's easy at the White House. What do you know about this last-minute holdup in Israel? Israel's blaming Hamas. Hamas is denying it. Again, we have reports also of Israeli infighting with those two right-wing ministers.
Well, I'll leave the Israelis to speak to their domestic politics, but that's right, Andrea. There have been some, what I would call, implementing details that there was a kink in, some differences here between the two sides. But the president has been updated by Mr. Sullivan, our national security advisor, and has been apprised of where we are. We do believe that we're going to be able to close those remaining gaps. This is not an issue that is going to derail the whole implementation of the deal. And as Secretary Blinken rightly said, we fully expect and we're confident that we're going to be able to get this deal in place by Sunday.
And in that case, you're confident that the deal will be in place and that the first hostages, which we are told will be three badly injured Israeli women who are not in good shape, those three would be coming out on Sunday.
That's right.
At least two Americans in the coming days after that.
That's right. That's right. I can't give you a date certain when the Americans will come out, but we know that there's a couple of Americans in this first tranche. And this first tranche for phase one of the 6 weeks of phase one really comprises the elderly, the sick and wounded, and women, of course. And so there are a couple of Americans who qualify under those criteria, and we expect that they'll be able to come out sometime in this first tranche.
But if the deal were to fall apart in those coming days, the Americans would be trapped.
Well, of course. I mean, if for some reason we don't get to implementation, then, of course, not only do you not get hostages out, but you don't get a ceasefire, and the people of Gaza are under continued threat. We don't get a surge in humanitarian assistance. That's why the deal is so important. But again, I want to stress, we believe these remaining issues are going to be ironed out and flattened. I think we're going to be fine, and we're confident, the president's confident, that we'll be able to get to implementation this weekend.
Of course, this is particularly critical for Eden Alexander because he would not be among the first two Americans who come out in that first phase. Presumably because he's not injured, he doesn't qualify as injured, elderly, or a woman.
Yeah, the first tranche really is focused on what we would consider the most at-risk hostages. You've got to remember, these folks have been held hostage now for more than a year in the most depraved conditions, tortured and beaten, and just utter barbaric conditions. And so we want to make sure that in this first tranche we focus on those that are in the most desperate need to get out. I'm not suggesting that he or others aren't desperate to get out. None of them should be held hostage, of course. We want them all out. But in this first phase, it's focused on these hostages that are most at risk in terms of health. We will get the rest of them out, but it's going to require both sides during phase one to do the proper establishment of all the conditions for phase two.
Now, you've said it doesn't matter who gets the credit for this deal. Donald Trump, an hour and a half before the president announced it, went on Truth Social taking the credit. There has been very close cooperation and coordination in these last few weeks, and particularly in the last week when Steve Witkoff, his envoy, was on the ground in Doha and back and forth. In one instance that was quoted, Witkoff was with Netanyahu in Israel, and Brett McGurk, the White House envoy, was on a speakerphone from Doha. So they've really been going back and forth. It strikes me that one of the big factors of Donald Trump's initial Truth Social post on December 2nd, which he amplified in his news conference a week ago Tuesday, that they'll be hell to pay in the Middle East, he said to Hamas, hell to pay if this deal isn't done by the inaugural. It strikes me that this had, if perhaps more influence even on Netanyahu. There was flexibility in those last weeks, at least on both sides, that we had not seen before.
Yeah, no, the president talked about this yesterday. He wanted us to work as one team, a team of Americans. It doesn't matter that Democrat or Republican, right or left, outgoing or incoming. He wanted us to work together as one team to get these hostages home. And that's what the American people expect. That's what the hostages expect and their families expect. That's what the people of Gaza would expect. And I don't think that the hostages or their families are sitting around right now trying to figure out who gets the most credit. And I don't think the people of Gaza are doing that either. They just want this war to end. And this deal, the deal the president put in place back in May, will do that. Eventually, it'll end this war. It'll bring needed relief to the Palestinian people. And just as critically, it'll end the fighting and get those hostages home. And the president wanted to make sure that we were reaching out assertively to the incoming team to make sure that they were involved and fully participants in this process, because now, as we get ready to leave, they're going to be the ones that have to actually work on the implementation over the coming weeks and months.
Now, after the bombs start falling and the airstrikes stop, and there were airstrikes overnight, the crisis doesn't end. And how can you be sure that enough aid is going to finally get in? Because since the siege began on October 8th, it's been stops and starts and only a trickle, and protests quietly by Blinken and Lloyd Austin in April, and again just in November.
That's why when the president put this deal on the table again last spring, this element, humanitarian assistance, was baked right in. A surge in humanitarian aid was one of the prerequisites for President Biden to be able to advance and forward and sign off on this framework. He wanted to make sure that the people of Gaza would get much more food, water, medicine, all the staples that they need to subsist after now more than a year of devastating conflict. That's baked into it. And so the Israelis have committed, Hamas has committed to not only facilitate the movement of this humanitarian assistance into Gaza, but to facilitate the safe and secure movement of that humanitarian assistance to desperate people in need all throughout Gaza. That's baked into this process, and that's why, again, it was so important to have Mr. Witkoff completely connected here with Brett McGurk, so that he also knows what those implementing details are for the humanitarian assistance, and he'll be able to monitor it.
Now, we've just been told that the Israeli government has announced they're going to meet on Friday, not today. And then the cabinet first, of course, the security cabinet, then the cabinet, the full cabinet, then the government approves it. So that ratification at the very earliest would be Friday night. Will that delay a Sunday release? There's a 48-hour waiting period.
It should not. We don't anticipate that being requiring a delay in implementation.
Let me ask you something about the strikes overnight, because the women and children were killed targeting a building where supposedly Hamas says one woman hostage, so that would be an Israeli woman, was also there and was being sheltered, and we don't know what happened to her. Do you know anything about that?
No, ma'am, I can't confirm those reports. But look, that's why getting this deal in place on Sunday is so important, because the first thing that happens is the guns fall silent. And a ceasefire falls all over Gaza, and there won't be any additional strikes. There won't be any additional civilian casualties. That's why it's so critical that everybody continue to work to get to Sunday implementation. But I'm sorry I don't have information on that report, but certainly it's quite disturbing to hear.
And let me ask you one other thing in a completely different part of the world, but in Sudan, the New York Times is reporting credibly that the regime military, on orders of its leaders, have used chemical weapons on at least 2 occasions against the RSF, the paramilitary rebel group. 4 senior U.S. officials are quoted on this. If this is confirmed, what does the United States need to do? There's only, I can only recall in the Iran-Iraq war and, of course, with Assad, that chemical weapons were used.
Right. We know that also, that Russian forces in Ukraine have also used chemical agents to further inflict injury and death on the Ukrainian people. Nevertheless, I can't confirm this particular report. I just saw it before coming on with you. Obviously, we're going to be looking at this very, very closely. As you know, we have already issued sanctions to the parties in Sudan for the damage that they have done, the lives that they have taken, the famine that they have caused, and we will continue to look at this very, very hard. I mean, if it turns out to be true, I mean, we'll certainly explore a range of options to react to it. But it's really critical that we stay at the task of diplomacy, which we have, to try to bring this conflict to an end and to support the Sudanese people, and we will.
Well, Retired Admiral John Kirby, I just want to say, since this is probably our last on-air conversation before the inaugural, I think tomorrow's your last day.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank you for what you've done through all your military career, what you did on active duty, what you did at the Pentagon as the spokesperson, what you did traveling, as I know very well, when you were the State Department spokesman, and coming into this role during the Afghan situation, the Ukraine war, and then, of course, Gaza. You've served your country, as has your whole family, so we thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate it. It's been a real privilege and an honor, and I'm grateful that the president trusted me and gave me the confidence to come here and serve the country again. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and lots of luck to you. I know you've also suffered through the hurricane, some terrible losses down in Florida.
Yes.
And I hope you can enjoy some rest before your next adventure. Thank you.
Thank you.